crisis unfolding in real time. Canadians deserve a government that will cut wasteful spending so they can afford to put food on their table.
Hear, hear. Honorable député de Mirabel.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, on July 1st, we found out that Patrick Charbonneau, Mayor of Mirabel, had passed away at 46 years old. He was more than just an elected official. He was a heartfelt man who was guided by his desire to serve the community. He always worked with integrity, vision, humanity, and being near the community. We could always trust him. He was always there. He was always present. He was really likable, and he had a huge heart. That's what we all knew about him. He was also a loving father and a devoted family man. He always talked about his family, who he loved dearly. We will always remember his spirit, his generosity, and everything that he accomplished for Mirabel. Annick, Olivier, Maëlle, Mr. and Mrs. Charbonneau, Mayor François Bélanger, on behalf of everyone from Mirabel who's here right now, and on behalf of the Bloc Québécois, we offer our deepest condolences, and may we continue to be inspired by him.
L'honorable député d'Ottawa, Vanier-Gloucester.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa, Vanier-Gloucester.
Third week of September, we celebrate National Payroll Week, a moment to recognize the professionals who ensure
Hello,
Canadian
how are
workers
you
are
doing?
paid
How is everyone
accurately
doing
and
today? I
on
hope this
time.
microphone's
Chaque
working
cycle de
well.
paie
It's just
Each pay cycle is more than
statements by
just an
members and then
administrative
question
procedure.
period, where
Pay
polyester
cycles are a
destroys
cornerstone
Marconi
of
should
employee
be
well-being. They provide
about 5
accuracy,
minutes.
transparency,
So, yeah,
and trust.
sit back and relax.
Pay allows workers to meet their daily needs, plan for the future, and build financial security for themselves.
Professionals, thank you for your integrity and the essential work you do to keep Canada paid and strengthen financial confidence. Merci également aux...
I would also like to thank the volunteers at the Payroll Institute who support these efforts through their work and through the services they provide.
The leadership of Brian Burgess, Chair of the Board, and Peter Tsanetakis, President and CEO of the National Payroll Institute, both here today. Their guidance and supports employee well-being and organizational success. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
It's been 6 months and the so-called new Liberal government seems like it's the same as the old one. At first, the Prime Minister sounded different from Justin Trudeau, but you'll find that as time goes by, they are using the same old Liberal playbook. He hinted at fast-tracking and building a pipeline, but what actually happened? He created a major projects bureaucracy instead to try and fast-track big projects. Not a single pipeline is on the major projects list as they re-announce previous projects that are already under construction. They kept in place bad anti-energy policies from the Trudeau era, C-69, C-48, the oil and gas production cap, the industrial carbon tax, to name a few. Enbridge, a Canadian energy company, is building a $700 million pipeline project. The problem is, it's not in Canada, it's in the United States of America. Canadians will have to wait for a Conservative government to support our world-class energy sector that will cut bad Liberal policies, build a strong economy to get the job done, and restore the promise of our great country.
The Honourable Member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to reflect on a wonderful summer in Brampton South. I would like to use this opportunity to share my sincere thanks to all residents who joined me at my annual summer barbecue. This summer, I attended many community events and heard one message clearly: public safety remains a top priority. As the Prime Minister has said, we will strengthen bail reform, impose tougher sentences on home invasion, extortion, and repeat violent offenders. We will invest directly in our law enforcement. Mr. Speaker, keeping our communities safe requires every level of government to do its part. Provinces must provide resources to courts and law enforcement to keep dangerous offenders behind bars. Together, we will build safer streets for Brampton and for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's quite funny because no one
The honourable
watches it
member for
live.
Brandon
Then afterwards,
Souris.
about 400
Canadians are
people
paying the
watch
price
it.
for this Prime Minister's reckless spending, skyrocketing 8.4% since he took office. Spending on high-priced consultants up by 37% to $26 billion. Spending on the bureaucracy itself up another 6% to $63 billion. Experts are clear, their spending is out of control. Yesterday at committee, the top financial watchdog stated, quote, "At this point, it's impossible for us and for you as parliamentarians to assess the likelihood or probability of the government hitting any fiscal target." Yikes. And it doesn't stop there. The watchdog went further, slamming the Liberals' lack of accountability. Quote, "I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors, which causes a considerable degree of concern." End quote. No kidding. Canadians are concerned as well. With more spending, more debt, and more bureaucracy piling up every year, when will this government finally show restraint and put Canada back on a responsible fiscal track, or is that just another broken Liberal promise?
The honourable member for Nipissing-Temiskaming.
Monsieur le Président, dear colleagues, please join me in wishing the city of North Bay a happy 100th birthday. And even if it's just 100 years old, it's still a city that is just getting started. And here's why. With its modern infrastructure, higher-level education centers, a strategic location at the crossroads of highways 11 and 17, access to rail and air transportation, North Bay, nicknamed a gateway to opportunity, is truly a gateway to east-west domestic trade and international markets. And for those of you who've been there, you know that it is a beautiful city. It has breathtaking scenery and wonderful recreational amenities, and much more. But most important are the citizens of the city of North Bay, the wonderful people. For 100 years, they've shaped this great city, and it now offers a high quality of life and is therefore a great place to raise a family and build a future. The city's centennial celebration, Monsieur le Président, has mobilized hundreds of volunteers who have highlighted
The honourable member for the honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Speaker, this Liberal Prime Minister promised change. Like Liberals before him, he's breaking his promises. He promised the fastest growing economy in the G7. He's actually delivered the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. He promised build, baby, build, but he continues to support Bill C-69, the Block, Baby, Block Act. He promised to double the pace of construction, but home building is actually declining. He promised jobs and opportunity and then delivered an unemployment crisis. He promised less spending, but he's spending more. He promised elbows up, and then he put his elbows down. This Prime Minister said the things he thought Canadians wanted to hear during the election, and then he did the opposite. During his time as a temporary foreign worker in the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister was famously called the unreliable boyfriend. 6 months into this relationship, Canadians are starting to see why. Canada, it turns out, he's just not that into you.
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Known as Steel Town for many reasons, including a long-standing role as the centre of steel production in Canada. Stelco and ArcelorMittal Dofasco still produce steel in Hamilton, and we have derivatives like Walters Group on Hamilton Mountain, which creates beautiful architectural steel, including the beautiful tree-inspired beams that hold up the ceiling of this very room. Thousands upon thousands of workers across the Golden Horseshoe rely on the steel industry, but steel production is crucial for all of Canada. We need a steel industry to be a viable G7 nation. The 50% U.S. tariffs have been a massive challenge to our previously integrated industry. I meet regularly with those affected, and I know how serious and engaged our government and our Prime Minister have been. Sustaining Canada's steel industry is a top priority. We will get through this, Speaker, and with Canadian steel, we'll build the strongest economy in the G7.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable leader of the opposition.
C'est quoi l'ampleur?
What is the scope of the Liberal deficit? Mr. Speaker, first, I would like to welcome the new pages here in Parliament. There will be a new budget from the government released on November 4th, and that will be the biggest investment budget in generations for Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How big is the deficit that the Prime Minister is running?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward with the Minister of Finance to releasing the budget on the 4th of November. That budget will contain the biggest investment in this country, in this country's future in a generation. Building homes, building new port infrastructure, new trade corridors, new energy infrastructure, building the strongest economy in the G7.
Well done. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Normalement.
Usually, the current government presents the deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year. Now, 6 months have gone by, and we still don't know how big the deficit is. This means a lot of uncertainty and pushes away investment and kills 86,000 jobs. It's the first time in the country's history that the Prime Minister won't tell us what the deficit is 6 months into the fiscal year. He says he's a budget expert, so does he know how big his deficit is? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank him for the compliment. Yes, I am a fiscal budget expert. Yes, I know that. Thank you. And I know that the current economic context here in Canada, and what's causing uncertainty is a trade war. We have to control what we can control, and that's investment in our future.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, surely, if he was such an expert, he would know the size of his own deficit. It's now halfway through the fiscal year. 6 months have gone by, and he has announced $40 billion of additional spending. Deficits drive up inflation, grocery prices, housing costs, and interest rates. They drive out investment from our country and uncertainty that destabilizes our economy. That's why every other Prime Minister in Canadian history has announced the deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year. We're 6 months in. Does he even know the size of his own deficit?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know many things. I know many things. And one of the things I know, the member opposite, the Leader of the Opposition, just mentioned interest rates. One thing I know is that Canadian interest rates are much lower than American interest rates. They're lower because this country's fiscal situation is strong, because this government has a plan to grow this economy, and we will keep doing it. We'll keep it doing it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the collapsing economy is bringing down interest rates, but the financial expert doesn't even know what his own deficit is. But another financial expert spoke yesterday. The parliamentary budget officer said the deficit will absolutely be higher because of additional spending. He said he doesn't know what the government's fiscal anchors are because they do not exist. He says the labor market sucks and wages are not going up. These are quotes. Is this why Liberal members on the committee who heard those truth bombs threatened that the Prime Minister would fire the parliamentary budget officer after 166 days?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't recognize that, Mr. Speaker. I don't recognize that characterization. I just appointed the parliamentary budget officer, and this government does have fiscal anchors. This government has fiscal anchors. We are going to spend less so the country can invest more. We are going to balance the operational budget in 3 years. We are going to have a declining level of debt, and we're going to do all of that because we're building the strongest economy in the G7 for Canadian families.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And the Prime Minister made the appointment of the Parliamentary Budget Officer temporary so that he could hold a sword over his head and threaten him if he speaks the truth about the financial mess the Prime Minister has made. That's what you remember? You know, to a government that doesn't know how to count, there is nothing more terrifying than a man armed with a calculator. And this Prime Minister wants to silence the Parliamentary Budget Officer from telling the truth about the fiscal mess that he has created under his watch. So will he, Mr. Speaker, legalize math, make the Parliamentary Budget Officer's position permanent, and tell us how big the deficit is?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
With respect to consultations on making the Parliamentary Budget Officer's position permanent, I look forward to speaking to the Leader of the Opposition, le chef de bloc,
the Leader of the Bloc Québécois,
of other parties in Parliament, so we have a consensus on that appointment. I welcome that.
Are you seeing this? Poilievre is roasting Carney.
Yes,
it's a roast. Poilievre is destroying him. Look at him.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, here's an opportunity for cooperation. We've heard a lot of speculation in recent hours about the possibility of the government tabling this afternoon something that goes against the notwithstanding clause in the Constitution. But there is a poll or a survey with a very large consensus in Quebec in terms of the value of state secularism. Can he commit to respecting Quebec's province's right of using the notwithstanding clause, even in a preventative manner? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, one of the responsibilities that are the most important of the government is to defend the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada. It's the job of the Supreme Court to decide whether something is legal or whether it's legal to use the notwithstanding clause again and again. And we'll see with the ruling what that is. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. That notwithstanding clause is in the Canadian Constitution from 1982 that Quebec never signed. René Lévesque wrote the notwithstanding clause in each of his bills after the Constitution was adopted. And the Prime Minister is undermining Pierre Elliott Trudeau's legacy. And he seems to be doing more damage to Quebec than Pierre Elliott Trudeau did, the Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, not at all. That's not correct at all. It's a ruling from the Supreme Court in terms of the use of the correct use of the notwithstanding clause that will decide this. It's simple. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, in 43 years, Quebec and all governments combined have never signed up for the Canadian Constitution because it does not allow us to defend the French language and state secularism. The government seems to be hiding behind this court, and we're they're asking the judges to change the Canadian Constitution in their place. We want the government to respect the consensus in Quebec, and if they want to reopen the Constitution, we're very open to that. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is the legislative branch. There is a judiciary, and this will be a decision for the Supreme Court and not for members of Parliament, whether they're from Quebec or the rest of Canada.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
The Prime Minister promised to cap spending, but is now set to double the deficit. Another broken promise, another Liberal bait and switch. Here's what the PBO, Canada's financial watchdog, said about the PM's economic record. Quote, the deficit will absolutely be higher. Quote, I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors. Quote, the labour market sucks. Wages are not going up. My question is this. How high will the deficit go, and what is this government's fiscal guardrail?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Ministre des Finances.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
So happy to see that our Conservative colleagues are so eager to see the great budget we're going to present on the 4th of November. Mr. Speaker, this is good news for Canadians indeed. It's going to be a generational investment in the future of this nation, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build our country. We're going to protect our communities. We're going to empower Canadians. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7. We're going to build like never before. We're going to build the Canada of the 21st century because you know what, Mr. Speaker? We're the true north, strong and free.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the PBO confirmed the deficit will be higher. Reports indicate it could even push $100 billion. Canadians know that massive Liberal deficits drive inflation. They pay for it at the grocery store, as food inflation is 70% above target. And as a result, 25% of households can't afford to put food on the table. Will the Prime Minister admit that having no fiscal anchor and doubling the deficit will only drive inflation higher?
Hear, hear. The
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the colleague for giving me the opportunity to share good news with this House, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the rate has gone down, Mr. Speaker, 2.5% today. The Bank of Canada just announced, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives should celebrate. Consumers are celebrating, businesses are celebrating, Canada is celebrating, Mr. Speaker. One thing that it tells to all Canadians, our plan is working. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
The PBO, Canada's top budget watchdog, has painted a dismal picture of the Prime Minister's economic record, saying, quote, the labour market sucks and wages are not going up. And it gets worse for this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, with his big plan to split the budget into operating and capital. But the PBO is not fooled by the smoke and mirrors. He said, quote, the bottom line of government will not change. The international public sector standards that everyone uses to measure the deficit and levels of debt will not change.
Investment in the big projects that are going to drive those great jobs all across the country. They need investment in the skills training that helps evolve the next generation of workers. And they need investment in food for kids, in dental care for adults, and in the many ways that our government can support Canadians.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
However, the Liberals want to try and spin their massive deficits, Mr. Speaker, the top financial watchdog in the country says there's only one bottom line, and we'll trust the PBO's word over 10 years of Liberal deficits any day, Mr. Speaker. And with this plan to split the budgets, as if the Prime Minister has forgotten that they're all linked to the same bank account, and there's really only one taxpayer. Right. So with the deficit set to double, let's just call a spade a spade. Will the Prime Minister admit he's really just cooking the books and hoping Canadians don't notice? Right on.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Good news today. The Bank of Canada has reduced interest rate to 2.5%. This is something that all entrepreneurs, all businesses are taking note, and obviously consumers as well. But we're focused on job, Mr. Speaker, and we heard across the country this summer that we need to be there for businesses that were trying to pivot and adapt. That's why we put $5 billion on the table to help them. And meanwhile, we're going around the world attracting foreign direct investments because we need to build Canada strong.
Here we go. The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
The Parliament Parliamentary Budget Officer, Canada's top financial watchdog, just ripped the Liberal job record, saying, and I quote, "The labour market sucks. Wages aren't going up." 86,000 Canadians have lost their jobs since taking office. Youth unemployment is over 14%, and Canada now has the second highest unemployment in the G7. Classic, another Liberal bait and switch. So, Mr. Speaker, I have one simple question. Does the Prime Minister have the guts to admit that his so-called jobs plan has completely failed Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With everything going on in the world, we do understand the pressures that Canadians, particularly young Canadians, are facing. This new government is getting busy with nation-building projects, which will create quality jobs, quality careers, and opportunities, in particular for youth across this country, including things like 18,000 jobs during construction of a new Darlington nuclear project in Ontario, for example. Hundreds of jobs in critical minerals and mining in Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Building the strongest economy in the G7 means more opportunities for youth and for all Canadians across the country. Thank
you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. The Liberal Prime Minister promised to cap government spending, but he is slated to double deficit, another broken promise, another Liberal deception. Yesterday, the PBO provided a scathing assessment of the first 6 months of this tell us how deep into the red this Prime Minister's deficit will sink. The Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'll be happy to see that the Conservatives will be here until November 4th.